Hello everyone, my name is Gino. Today we're going to be picking back off from where we left off with the painting of Dako, a character from my high fantasy novel Huntress Arbor. Now, last time that we worked on this piece, I noticed that in the playback for the stream, the audio sounded rather strange. It seemed to be very bassy as well as quiet in a weird way, which is weird because I have my mic hooked up to a DAC as well as a preamp, so I shouldn't be having any problems with volume. But I just made a few changes with some of the settings that were in OBS, things like a noise gate, noise suppression, a compressor, a limiter. So everything should be sounding a lot smoother this time. I've also decided to add a little bit of music as well, since it seemed kind of dry last time I was streaming. So all things considered, this should be a pretty good setup, and let's get back into the painting. And what I'm doing right now is just kind of taking stock of where we're at. I know that I have to work on the hair, and I also have to develop a lot of the features, but before that I want to get the shading correctly done. It's one of those important things that you can't really put off till the end. Well, I suppose the hair can wait a little bit. One of the things I didn't resolve last time is the issues I've been having with the nose, so to speak. It's not bad for a foundation, really, although it's not really illustrating the proper form that I would want it to. What you must consider in this case is how light falls on the subject. So the light is still in the same place. It's to her upper left, so the rays that are coming down from her should be perpendicular, although the position of her head is somewhat odd to tell from this angle, because you wouldn't know how much shade there would be just underneath her nose right here. And I suppose there's no like hard and fast rule for this kind of thing, since everyone has different shaped noses, different shaped ears, different shaped lips. What I'm trying to look for here is more so what's the most appealing, more or less. So you can see, like, if you look at the bottom of the nose there, it looks like rather flat in terms of dimension. So it's just a matter of, do I add more detail underneath and make it look more as if she's looking upwards, or do I try to bring the tip of her nose sort of down to make it look like she's looking downwards? Little things like this are pretty important to consider, since they change the sort of the emotional tone of the subject. In addition to that, I've also begun adding the reflected light into the shadow, which is just another stage of blending. I still want to keep the shadows and the lights very separate in this piece. I'm going for a very hard, dramatic style of lighting here, which when you look at it is quite striking. So I don't want to do too much blending. Although what I do want to do is, I think, bringing a little bit more of her body into frame. So that would mean like backing up the camera, so to speak, if like the viewer was a camera, like I'm thinking in photography terms right now. And great on me once again to forget to paint the subject in a separate layer. Looks like I've got some issues with the screen here. Let's just fix that. I gotta remember to turn my nightlight off when I'm streaming, because it's really gonna get in the way of how the painting looks like. Alright, that should be better. Again, I'm not even sure if like the my redshift even shows up on stream, but I'd rather just have it off anyway. Even if it's just monochrome, like, it's just gonna get in the way of how I'm looking at the shadows. So thankfully, there's not all that much work for me to do if I wanted to just make her smaller in the piece. All I gotta do is kind of fill in these little areas here, and I didn't do anything too complex yet, so it's still rather easy. Let's see here. A lot of the texture that's seen here with the brushes and whatnot is probably not going to come up into the... it's not going to be seen in the final piece, since I'm probably going to be exporting this at 1080p. The painting right now I think is in 4K. But it's not about whether you can see the detail, it's whether, you can feel that the detail is there. Otherwise, I could just use a flat brush, but having texture to your brushes always add a bit more character, I feel at least. I also want to begin giving a little bit more definition to her neck there, and other parts of her skin. The highlights I think are somewhat developed, good enough at least, but the shadows themselves still don't have that much detail within them. So I'm going to have to bring that out. I'm using a soft brush right now, though that's probably not a good idea. Whenever you're doing any kind of painting, you really want to refrain from using tools with very soft edges, just because it makes things looks very muddy, looks very fuzzy. It's much more striking if you had the choice, then it's better to go with a very hard, harsh brush than it is to go with a softer brush. Though I'm just using a soft brush to kind of bring out a little bit of the, or rather indicate some detail. I'm not really going in with the intention to make it final. There's something odd going here with my layers. Oh well. The idea I have in mind here is to give her sort of a Oriental Japanese style tunic, I suppose, shirt, garment, kind of like, imagine a kimono with the sleeves torn off, which is why I get like the indication of the fur and such that's kind of spilling out of there. One of the interesting things about clothing is how you choose to kind of I guess style it in a sense, because whenever I'm doing female characters, I always do, who are wearing jackets, I always like put the buttons, zippers, or the folds on the opposite side that you would a male. For male-centric clothing, the buttons and zipper would be on the right-hand side, but on the females would be the left-hand side. So for this piece in particular, I'm trying to, kind of preserve that. Although I'm not much of a fashion designer, I still want to make it look like, one part of her tunic here is going over the other one, and that would be the female-centric one rather than the male. Pretty soon here I'm also going to have to go in and sort of define her shirt from her skin more, since you don't really know what's her skin and what's her shirt. We're still in a very early stage right now. I understand now that I'm like going around the painting instead of like focusing on one area in particular. Like I know that I need to work on the shirt, and I also need to work on the hair, but I'm not really like committing, I suppose. When you're doing that, it's probably like a good indication as an artist that you probably need to just like make a big change in the painting, because clearly it's not done yet. But I still haven't, committed to making a big change as of yet, which I really should, but. I don't know, I still want to get these little details in first. which I probably shouldn't be doing since the finer details should come later. But it's just what I feel comfortable doing right now. It's funny because a lot of the different features of the face were things I had a lot of trouble with in high school when I was in art classes. I remember that I could do eyes pretty well, though like I couldn't do lips or noses to like, save my life, honestly. Um, you look at someone's eyes and like that's what people look at when they're talking to each other, or when you're looking at a character. Like immediately the first thing that a person looks at is someone's eyes. Things like the mouth, nose, ears, those are sort of secondary, since like I've said before that the eyes are pretty much 50% of the face in terms of importance when painting. So if you get the eyes wrong, like it's like a big detriment to the painting as a whole. So in high school, I was pretty good at doing eyes, but not so much the other features. Um, I guess it's because like I wasn't as interested. Like you draw like an eye on a piece of paper and like you want to make it look cool and all such, but I didn't put like the same amount of practice into the other features. Not that it would have helped, honestly, because the way that they're kind of taught in high school is symbolic drawing, if you know what I'm talking about. At least in my high school, you learned we learned how to do everything separately. So we learned how to the teacher would give you an assignment and would be like, oh, here you go, and draw an eye, and then here's like a diagram of a nose, so now draw the nose. But they didn't really teach you how to see these features in 3 dimensions. So really they were just teaching you how to draw symbols, and rather detailed symbols. People were pretty good at drawing in my class, though not really as good as putting them all together. If you're wanting to learn how to draw portraits or anatomy, it's important to start big and then go smaller. So before you even like think about painting features such as the ears, mouth, or nose, you have to actually draw the head first and understand like where those features would fit on the head, rather than here's a nose, here's an ear, here's a mouth, and just drawing one by one. Ideally, you would want to do everything or develop everything sort of at the same rate. So, because like if you did both eyes like entirely, and then moved on to the nose, and then moved on to the mouth, then it would just make everything look, they wouldn't really flow together. There's not, they wouldn't have a rhythm. I mean, it's not to say that you can't do it, you can, though it's not really efficient. So I think it's about time now for me to begin really getting into those really deep shadows, what we call the ambient occlusion. And that would be sort of the areas in a subject that very little light gets to at all. They're usually areas that are like sort of interior. Let's say like creases or folds within an area. Like a good example would be like underneath the jaw, like the area where the neck and the jaw meets. That's a spot where very little light gets to it all, so there'd be a lot of shade there. Another would be sort of if you have like one side of the face lit, then it'd be sort of the just underneath the brow, between the eyelid and the stem of the nose. That'd be another place that'd be rather dark. The interior of the ear. That'd be another dark place, sort of the place where the top and the bottom of the lips meet. Basically, ambient occlusion would be like the place of like the richest blacks within the piece, and it's gonna be like the point where the floor, like the value floor of the painting is sort of met, if that makes sense. It'd be like the place where the darkest parts of the painting are. So, it's important like to know the correct range of values within a piece. Like, for example, if you have a, you know, if you establish in a piece that there is, you know, a blackest black, then you don't want to use a black that's darker than that, if that makes sense. Like, for example, if you see underneath her chin right now is a rather deep shade of black, if I were to put an even deeper shade of black near there, then that would completely throw everything off, because it wouldn't make sense just like in the context of the lighting. So I would have to like darken everything up in that case. So currently right now, if I were to look at the curves, I'm at about probably 10, like the darkest black is 10% light, about, more or less. If you look at the my little color square up there, that's about 10 to 15% value. So that, in the context of this painting, is the darkest dark. So going beneath that would like, I would need to like basically repaint all the entire painting, because it would add a new context within the values. Yeah, just make sure my music isn't too loud. Alright now, so I'm just carving out these edges here a little bit. Like I said before, having sharp edges is very important to painting, as well as having soft edges. Those defining features is, you know, going to really give you a baseline for what the form is. That's why you got to be careful when you're using any kind of a soft brush. It's because not having a really defined, not having like a definitive edge to a form can make it look very very fuzzy, very unconvincing, let's say. Let's see. Now it's really frustrating trying to get these horns correct. Whenever you're doing something like the human body, right? It's not perfectly symmetrical. Like, even if like, let's say someone is, hypothetically, if they were to turn their head a little bit, or just like shift up their pose, then you know, that would make them asymmetrical in the context of the painting. So in that regard, it's easy to do things like, you know, get the ears correct, or get both sides of the nose correct, or the eyes, since, you know, the brain has a little bit of leeway in those areas. But these horns are things that should be more or less perfectly symmetrical. So like, trying to get them to be the exact same shape is rather challenging. And this is before I'm even getting into the like the texture, because like they're not going to be white, they're going to be black, like shiny black. But I'm trying to get the form of them right now. I'm just getting distracted now with the brow. I just see something that I don't like and I have to go and work on it. Well, that's fine. Just little by little, honestly. I think we're making relatively good progress along the face. Um, the clothing I'm not all that worried about right now, since in comparison to the head, it's gonna be rather simple. So, of course, the majority of the work would be going into working on the face. But all in all, for about how long has it been? 2 hours. This is a pretty good place to be in. Although some people would say that's rather slow, and I'm notoriously slow when it comes to art in general. I know that if an artist like, I don't know, Wallop were working on this, and he'd probably be already finished with this piece by now. Since, in the grand scheme of things, it is rather simple. There's no color to work with. It's just like a headshot, which isn't all that complex. That's the thing, though. Like, as you get more skilled, you'll tend to work faster, and you should also always be working at a rate that's just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Really, that's sort of the way that you would kind of push yourself to work on things a bit faster. You know, I'm being kind of lazy right now, honestly. If I wanted to, I could just go crazy and make dramatic changes, though. I really don't feel like doing that right now. You're just taking it step by step, little by little. And really, it's fine if you do that. Just, you know, make sure you're not going too slow. Oh man, that flip just really threw me off. That's why you should always flip your canvas. You can really see a lot of the mistakes when you flip the canvas of your painting. It's like I noticed now that the left eye is a lot bigger than the right, and also is a bit off center, which is not correct. Though that's gonna take like a lot of work to get in there and fix. How am I gonna do this? I know that she's gonna have black sclera with yellow irises. Although I'm not gonna paint them yellow, just gonna be brighter. So perhaps I should inverse these, or should I inverse them? Because right now it looks it's like the opposite of what it should be. I think like the shape of the eyes right now is really getting under my skin. Like structurally, the eye should have the top eyelid should have about 3 lines, and the bottom should have 2. You know, in most cases, it depends on the character itself, obviously, but abiding by that rule will give your painting, or your character rather, sort of more of that structure, which I find appealing. Yeah, I think I'm going. It's like way too round for me right now. I have to go in and fix that. I'm trying to like kind of squint here and see like where the values sort of should be landing. I'm not sure. I think I'll just have to experiment with it and go kind of back and forth. You know, if you if you draw a character that has her that is smiling with it always like sort of accentuates that smile if they have their eyes sort of slightly more closed, you know, because if you look at someone smiling, then you see that they don't only smile from the mouth, but they also smile from the eyes. And actually, the way to tell if someone's like fake smiling at you is if they're like only smiling with their lips and not with their eyes. Because like when someone gives a really big smile, you notice that they're like kind of squint their eyes a lot. I don't want to give her a huge smile, just like you know, a little bit of a grin, kind of like a cute little, like I said, schoolgirl kind of grin. I'm also making her eyes sort of quite large in proportion to her face. I mean, it's not like, you know, completely unrealistic, but it is slightly larger than what you would see on the average person. And someone like that is like how you would symbolize someone of a younger age. You know, the younger you are, the bigger your head is, the bigger your eyes are, and that's because as you grow up, like your eyes and your head don't grow as much as the rest of your body. You know, which is not to say this is a particularly young character. She is 19 years old, although she's very small. She's very short, so just having features like that can kind of accentuate. Like you can tell, sort of, I mean, more or less, that this is a small girl, just by the proportions of her face. Again, though, I don't want to make her look too young. Just enough. And that's a thing to really consider when you're painting anything. Is that if you come between two options, usually the subtle one is the better one. Which is probably not a good thing for me to say, since I'm having these really dramatic lighting for this portrait. But a general rule of thumb, I think, the more like intricate and the more nuanced things like color and value and proportions are, then just the more interesting it is overall. Even though, like, you know, if you make something very dramatic and striking, it could be very interesting to look at. And a lot of my favorite artists really draw and paint that way, with very striking poses. Although the ones I always keep going back to, you know, such as Wallop, they always have a very nuanced style of painting, which I think just lasts longer. Like, it keeps your interest for longer. Like I always go back to Wallop's paintings of Aeolian, just because it's like you can always find something new with those paintings. And that's like the same thing that you can attribute to a lot of art mediums. Like, a good book is one that you can always go back to and find something new with, or a TV show, or a movie, or even a song. But for now, we're not looking to like reinvent the wheel. I just want to make a very simple, easy headshot portrait of a character that I like. Nothing too crazy. I'm working now on trying to get these little reflected lights on the other side of her cheek here, which is just as important as the sort of darker shades of the highlights. That's what I'm talking about, that nuance there. Right now, what I think I got to do is kind of more boldly to find out where the edges of her lips here are, since I don't know. I do have this like little glint right here on her lower lip, which is gonna catch more of the light that's coming down from the top. Though I don't really have a border for where her lips and her skin begins. Not a defined one anyway. It's just sort of kind of shadow, kind of you know sort of in the air, up to interpretation, kind of, which is not a good thing to have in a painting. Not entirely, at least. I should probably also go back and sort of fix the angle of her mouth too, since I don't know. I find that when you paint or draw someone smiling, it's always better to keep like their mouth themselves relatively straight, and then just up the corners of the mouth. And I believe that's called a Mona Lisa smile in the biz. But usually, I don't think like I don't prefer drawing the actual like curve of the lips themselves, unless like someone's giving a really big smile. Um, Again, it's thinking about that subtlety. Another thing to consider is the size of the lips. That's another thing that didn't really realize until later on is the way that the lips kind of stretch, over muscle and whatnot. Well, this is like something to consider within every muscle in the body and how skin applies to them all. But for lips themselves, the bottom lip will usually always be thicker than the lower lip. And of course, I'm talking about like ideal proportions, really. But it's more appealing to see the lower lip be bigger than the bottom one. Um, which for this example itself, like I know that if I can probably just change the line of the mouth themselves, like where the bottom and the lower lip meet, and that'd probably fix a lot of it. No, I'm not going to get into that just yet. Also, if anyone happens to be talking in chat right now and I'm not responding, forgive me. I don't have the chat pulled up on any of my browsers right now. I think there is a way to do it if like you link your account with OBS. Though I haven't done that. I just used a stream key, and I prefer not to look at my stream itself when I'm streaming, just because like it's another distraction, and I kind of want to be talking like as much as I can here, kind of explaining my process. But really, right now, I think we're in a good place. The lights aren't too light, the darks aren't too dark, and there's a lot of room to increase the ceiling or lower the floor. So, yeah, right now it's just about those little nuances. What I like a lot right now is how the shadow underneath her, around her chin, how it starts off very sharp, going underneath her lips, and then sort of gets fuzzier as it approaches her chin. That's something that you're going to notice with light. If, like, let's say you have a flashlight and you put it on a table and then put like on a roll of uh, paper towels or so, or like one of those little cardboard tubes in front of the light, then you'll see like the border of the shadow that's closest to that tube is the sharpest, where the farther away that shadow is, the more fuzzy it gets, and that's because light it sort of has a I guess a bleeding quality to it. And that's like sort of like the disturbances going on with the air and whatever's like in the atmosphere, sort of, reflecting the light within itself and just making a more global illumination the further away a light source is from, or the further away a light source is coming from, the source. So yes, that's another thing to consider. Shadows will get softer the longer they are. This is quite an odd brush that I'm using right now. Um, Really, this kind of really odd kind of squarish brush. I'm only using it to sort of add texture. Really, I wouldn't really paint with this sort of brush. It's one of those things where it's just giving a little bit too much texture. So I'm using it just to I guess soften up some borders in an interesting way is a good idea. Like, for example, if you look at the light just underneath her cheek right there on the right, it looks a bit more interesting now. Whereas in the very soft shadow on the left eye is a little bit not as interesting to look at, and that's a good way to use textures. Like, people will ask a lot of the time online, oh, what brushes are you using? What brushes are you using? And it's a fair question to ask, in all honesty, because brush texture is very important. But you should never really rely on the texture itself to make the piece. All it is a little bit of a little bit of spice, honestly. Like, this entire piece can be made entirely with a soft brush, given different sizes and whatnot. Though the real character, I think, comes out when you use a variety of textures. I'm wondering right now how good my levels are. Like, I have music playing in the background, but I'm not really listening to it myself. I'm hoping it's not too loud. It's at about, I think, negative 43 dB or so, while my voice is at around 25 or so. So I don't think it's a problem, though. I don't know. I have a recording going on, so we can go back and check. So hopefully it's not too intrusive. Wouldn't that be a great problem to have? Last stream there was no music at all. Now there's too much music. You can see that as I zoom in, the texture is a lot more invasive, but that's not something that you would really worry about when the painting is completely zoomed out. The best painters will always paint as far away from the canvas as possible, which just it makes your eye look at everything more collectively, which is just a better way to paint in general. It's a better way to kind of get an eye for how the composition of the piece is in its entirety. So, I wouldn't get too caught up if I were you, zooming in too much, even though I do zoom into my pieces a lot. Where shall I go from here? And speaking of texture, if you pay attention to which brushes I'm using, I actually don't use a very wide variety. I maybe use, I think, 3 or 4 in total. That would be this sponge brush I have right here, and there's also my paint texture brush, and those are like the 2 that I use the most often. I would bring in things like a soft brush, or like that, like you saw, that big square texture brush, every once in a while, just to add a little bit more seasoning to the painting itself. You know, there's no need to really have a super wide range of brushes being used on any one piece. And I find that my paint texture brush is the most comfortable to use. It's the most versatile. It's the most controllable. It has a good texture to it, but it also is not too invasive. You know, it's good. I like that brush. Just little by little carving things out. That's all it takes. Like I said before, I wanted to sort of straighten out the curve of the lips themselves while making the curve more defined on the edges, um, which I'm doing now, and it does seem to be a bit more appealing. When the lips stretch out into a smile, or I guess a frown as well, but more so in a smile, you'll notice that the lips themselves will get thinner. So again, Dako here isn't given like a massive smile, but it is a little bit. So her lips would be a little bit more slimmer than they would otherwise. In all honesty, I think I'm probably giving a little bit too much detail to the Fulham here, which I should probably try and soften that up. I find that female faces, especially, you don't want to go too hard with the lines. The lines of the features, that is, not the lines of the shadow. It seems that the harder you have the lines for a female face, or any face in general, just the older it will look. Like, for example, if I were to give like these I forgot what they're called. The lines that kind of connect the edges of the nostrils to the tip of the mouth. You know what I'm talking about? It's the point where the muzzle and the cheek connect. If I were to like really define those lines, it would make her look quite a bit older. You know, and not in an appealing way either. So you always want to be careful of how much of the features you want to define. I was just about to say that we were making pretty good progress on the face itself, and then and then I looked at her little ponytail there and saw like just how rough it still was and how much work there is still left to do. That's the thing, like you don't want to spend too much time on any one piece in particular, just because any one part of the piece in particular, just because like it might get away from you and you might realize how much work there is to do on other parts of it. Which I should be getting to work on the hair more, but I really can't help myself. Again, trying to soften up this little edge here underneath the mouth, around the cheeks. I want to introduce some softness, but not too much softness. I just have to find a good balance. No, that doesn't look right at all. Oh, that's looking even worse. Oh, man. You see, this is what I was talking about before, how introducing a darker black than is within the context of the piece will kind of put everything else out of proportion. So I can't go that black. I can go a little bit more black, but not straight like 0%. So I do want to introduce a darker black, but I'm not quite sure where to put it just yet. I kind of like the way that things look right now. Like the values are very subtle, and most of the intricacies right now are in the midtones. So I'm liking what's going on there. So I don't think I want to add more black and kind of like ruin the like the piece in general. Although I suppose I can use the curves to do that. Though I find the curves is like a very it's a very useful yet also sort of dangerous tool to use. Like you can, like if you mess with these like little Photoshop tools too much, then it's very easy to ruin your piece. Like things like liquify or hue saturation or transform or anything like that. It's very easy to, lose control with it. So I want to try to keep this as close to the genuine experience as I can. Nothing too extreme. Again, it's looking good. Maybe introduce a little bit more shading underneath here. That's the thing, you have to indicate where the now if there's a curve, you have to indicate the curve, and the face is a very curvy part of the body, so I can't just ignore like where those little divots would be. So there would be a little bit of shade, where the jawline ends, a little bit of shade, around the forehead, and so like a lot of places I'm kind of neglecting right now. I'm just kind of jumping around. I find it fine to use the soft brush when it comes to rather undefined features on the body. Like I think it's fine like for using defining muscles, for example, like these little, I'm not sure what these call, these little straps of the neck, since those are usually not very defined pieces of anatomy. Also other muscles in general, such as the shoulders or the traps, kind of. I think like the sharpest muscles in the body would probably be like around the abs and the abdominals, and that's just because Hollywood and whatnot, like they have all their actors shredded, so now there's like this expectation for abs to have like rock hard edges, but really it's fine if you just have a very soft indication of them, like Nothing too crazy. And, just this, like going in with a soft brush for like 30 seconds, like that's enough just to give definition to the muscles. And it does, like that little change itself has done has done wonders for defining the collarbone and again those little straps on the neck. Speaking of straps, my voice is getting kind of tired. I'm thinking this is a good. This has been a good session. I might be ending it rather soon. I just hope nothing catastrophic happens. Like I don't know. I go to end the stream and then I realize I wasn't streaming at all, or like my volume is completely down or something. I'm also not entirely sure how long to make these streams either. I think that about an hour to an hour and a half is a good length for a session. Though, like, I know most streamers can go like 3 to 7 hours easy, which I don't know. Like, I don't know how people can have that kind of stamina. Honestly, it's really odd. Like, I guess that most of them are just playing video games anyway, so it's not really that difficult to have a session that long, though. I feel like painting takes a lot of brain power. Like, I can already feel myself starting to get fatigued here, even though I made quite a bit of progress in this session, and it's just been about an hour or so. I suppose now it's about time I start getting serious with the little furry tufts here. I know that I at least want to get that done before I finish for tonight. Honestly, it's not all that different from painting hair. So it's just like a lot of little strands. Nothing like not going too small, just enough to give an indication here. I realize now I kind of shot myself in the foot by painting the collarbone before I did the fur. Oh, it's fine. I can always go back and fix it. This is going to be rather difficult since it's behind her head, and that's going to be within shadow. The tufts are going to be a different value than the other ones, which I am not. Which I'm not going to be crazy to. Not too crazy to go and working on that, but I have to do it. I'll have to get to it eventually. That sort of shadow that you see there on her shoulder is probably too defined, since it would be softer, about as soft as the shadow that's coming down from her around her neck. Alright. I think we're getting somewhere now. Like I mentioned, the sort of the inside of her tunic is sort of lined with this sort of very thick fur. So I do want it to kind of look like it's sort of spilling out over her collar. So would be going in all different kinds of directions. And it is looking rather good, I'd say, as it started at least. This is my my paint texture brush I was talking about. Very versatile brush. Can paint just about anything, really. It's good for hair, good for clothing, good for skin, good for a lot of different things. Which I think that everyone should have kind of a brush like that, like a go-to, very reliable brush that you can get anything done with. And then having some specialty brushes. Yeah, you know, because I'm keep flipping the canvas now. I forgot which way the head, like the portrait, is supposed to be. Um, so I'm getting kind of confused on which which direction the tunic is folded. So I think that this is correct since I'm gonna flip it again, and I want to maintain her right side going over her left. So I think that this is correct. I don't know. I'm not even sure which way I'm going to, you know, let the painting sit, because I think that um, right now it's better flipped the other way than this way. And if some of you are calling me crazy thinking that, oh, Gino, it doesn't matter, it probably doesn't, but I don't know. I think it does. There's like a psychological element to it for me. Just like the way that I imagine painting it to begin with is the way that looks better for me. Um, Even though it's like, you know, a mirror copy. So objectively, it shouldn't matter. But I don't know. I think that art is just about the emotional as much as it is about the objective in most cases. It's what I feel, guys. I have no context right now for how my music is since I'm not really listening to it. Well, I could listen to it, but like it wouldn't really give me a proper context of how it sounds in stream unless I'm watching the stream. But then if I'm watching the stream, then it's gonna be weird. Which is just why I'm taking a recording of it right now. Yeah, like I'd mentioned, it's going in there and kind of lightening up that shadow. Ah, fucking hell. This is what I get for leaving the windows open. Alright, alright, alright. Thinking this horn right here is looking pretty good. Do I want to work on the other one? Maybe I could just copy it. Honestly, I don't really think it's worth the effort to remake the exact same. I probably should just copy it, honestly. Maybe I'll do that. I'm gonna have to change the value of the horn anyway. I don't know why I didn't start with black. Let's just try before I do that. Yeah, no. Yeah, I'll just copy and flip it. It's not cheating. Trust me, it's not. Honestly, though, like if I had the option to, I might as well, because I want to kind of save my energy for what's more important in the painting. And I think that trying to make her left horn the exact same as her right is kind of like probably wasted effort, honestly. You know, if you can make things easier for yourself, then you might as well. Her head is kind of tilted, so I need to make it the same angle. But yeah. There's a timer. Alright, well, that's probably a good place to end it for now. Alright, thank you everyone if you are still watching and have made it this far. I will be going back into working on this, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a few days, depending on how things turn out. So if you want to join me, then go ahead and subscribe and whatnot, put on the alarms, all that kind of stuff, and I shall see you next time. Take care.
Gotta clear my head of anger and grief. A place to refresh heart and mind. Can I find some